Welcome everybody. It's been a while. Hey Jeff. Hey Jamie.
Hey,
How you
Yes,
guys been?
sir.
how you guys doing?
I'm alright. I'm alright. Yourselves?
Living well.
Living the dream. Living the dream.
Somebody's dream.
So I don't know. Been a while since I talked to both of you. But Jeff, since the last time I did a live with you, it's been over six
Couple
months, I
months
believe.
anyway. Has
Yeah,
it been six? Wow. Oh my goodness.
maybe. Yeah,
Wow, that's
about
a long
that.
time. Wow, that's
Yep.
scary.
So,
Time flies when you're having fun.
what are your thoughts on everything that's transpired in the case?
uh, well, like I said, it's pretty depressing. The Court of Appeals decision really got a lot of us down. Uh, but you have to keep on plugging. We can't give up on Stephen and Brendan. And right now I'm kind of in a mode where I'm not really sure what to do. I'm not convinced we're going to find the killer. I think a lot of people, a lot of very smart people smarter than me, have searched through the evidence and searched and searched and searched, and found little tidbits. And the lawyers all tell us these tidbits don't really amount to much, even though we think that they're important. Um, I'm not really convinced we're going to solve the case. So the best we can do is keep people aware and offer support, in my opinion. So I'll occasionally tweet and whatnot, um, to try and keep my massive amount of followers. I think I'm up to 1,000, maybe 100. I don't know, one of them. Um, so to try and maintain awareness, and that, yeah, we haven't given up. Um, but I think we're all wondering what way KZ is going to go with this, right? So I think that's the real that's the big question of the day.
Is the echo gone, everybody? They're saying there's an echo.
Uh, I don't hear an echo in my thing. I can turn on the.
Jamie, what's your thoughts?
It's very similar to Jeff. The downside is, this has been what, 6 years or more in the making? No, yeah, about 6 years in the making now, since the first MAM. Um, I did have a talk with Travis at one point in time, and there's almost a little bit of a sense of defeat. Not. I mean, myself as well. When you see that, but again, if we go back to what KZ has said in the past, is that a lot of these cases do take her 15 years, sometimes more to get people exonerated. So I haven't lost all hope, but it's definitely a kick in the gut.
So Jamie, did he have any advice as to what supporters should do besides support? Is there anything to be done in the research arena according to Travis, or just your conversation didn't go there?
No, we didn't really go there as far as that. I mean, nobody wants to really, no one really wants to accept any kind of defeat, myself included. A lot of people have a lot of time in this, and that's where, from a legal standpoint, Travis being a lawyer, I mean, he's got a lot of good knowledge in that in the arena there, but that doesn't mean it is the end all be all. I mean,
Right.
again, Kathleen has done amazing things with other people. I actually really kind of should go back and look at some of those other cases and see, you know, are there any kind of comparisons to what she's dealing with now? It'd be pretty interesting for me to know, are there cases that were even harder for her to deal with than this one? Harder to research, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, she does have the opportunity to very much cherry pick the cases that she takes. And I don't know the answer to your question, by the way, but it seems to me that she, she has a knack for latching onto those cases that, there's some solid foundation upon which an appeal can be made and an exoneration is likely. She jumped off the Daniel Holtzclaw case, right? Just because she didn't have enough time to deal with it. I think most likely she felt that it was not, it was too long of a road for her, from where it went from that ruling. But she's still staying on this one, so that should say that does say something to me. That she does feel like there's a path. What path she takes, I don't know. If a lawyer were here right now, the question that I would ask the lawyer is exactly what is appealable. For me, the two decisions that the Court of Appeals totally dismissed that rankle me the most are, one, the Veely CD, because I just don't believe that the state has the right to bury the work product of a forensic expert. And I tweeted today thinking about this live. I think I responded to Zellner Chess or somebody like that. What piece of evidence or what piece of analysis that's created by an expert in any area is it going to be okay for them to bury when you're on trial? That's the question I want everybody to answer, including the guilters. What's it okay for them to bury when you're on trial? And that in my mind, there's no doubt that Veely's work was, it stood alone as a piece of analysis done by someone by a law enforcement expert, a forensic data analyst. And therefore, it was its own work product, and it revealed something, and that was left out on purpose. It was in Tom Fassbender's drawer for 11 years for a reason, right? And that reason wasn't because he forgot it there, right? That reason's because they wanted to fucking bury it, right? And that you just can't do that. So that is one of the things. Is it appealable from that dimension? Can we say this? Can KZ approach the federal court and say, the state of Wisconsin got this wrong, and this is a fundamental constitutional violation? Essentially, what is it when they bury evidence? A Brady violation? Essentially a Brady violation. And the second one is, for me, is obviously the bones, giving them back. And everybody has their favorite, though, as to what it was. I mean, the Denny's. I mean, I still feel, you have a right, right? I mean, this is about, you always have to ask yourself, what if it were me on trial? What would it be okay to do? And he has a constitutional right that if a suspect rises to the level of a Denny suspect, for the jury to hear that person name by name and why they should be considered as a Denny. And if they don't get to hear that, then then that's a fundamental violation invalidating the trial. I'm a believer that he's innocent, but at this point, I think we're grasping at technicalities rather than actual innocence. But that being said, that's why you go the federal route. So are those, my question to the lawyers are, and I don't know the answers, are these things appealable in the way that I'm articulating them? And I just don't know the answer.
I agree. That's the only thing I can see her is going back to the circuit court and starting all over.
So if she does that, right, she definitely has to drop the current set of appeals, right? So she's got to dismiss those to start something new, because you can't have two going in Wisconsin at once, and you have to appeal federally a case that's active at the state level. That I'm pretty sure of. So I think it's one or the other, but not both. So and if she chooses to go back to the Court of Appeals, then. Sorry, if she chooses to go back to the circuit court, I mean, then she has to drop everything regarding the current one, except for the things that the Supreme or the Court of Appeals said that they didn't rule on, and she has a valid thing to go on. I think some of those are weaker, except maybe The new witness. How do you say Sawinski? Is that the right way to say his name? So except for Sawinski, that we'll see what they say about that. Just the lateness of the witness, and there's been a lot of people really questioning the viability. It seems to hold up though, to some level of scrutiny. I'm not here to question him, but I don't know whether that is Stephen's best route or not. I just don't know. I mean, one thing for sure is he's not getting any younger, nor am I. So time is not on Stephen's side. I guess Millbilly was remiss of us to not acknowledge the passing of Dolores. So for all the members of the Avery family, I'm really sorry. You lost her. She was a stalwart for Stephen and Brendan. So my very much belated condolences on that.
Yeah, that was disturbing to hear, and especially knowing how much that Stephen cared for Dolores and Alan. I mean, it's a bad situation no matter what, for anybody, but the situation where he's stuck in there and can't do anything to help. His whole thing when he got out the first time was he wanted to help mom and dad. That was his goal.
Yeah, for those of us who've been through the phone calls, the jail calls, it was pretty obvious how I can only imagine it.
So and back to what you were explaining. Yeah, where can Kathleen go from here? I don't know strategically if she would want to drop the claims that she was making. That's a lot I mean, that's already, she's had it in the works. She believes that there's something valid there. To drop them, I just don't see her doing that, because I don't foresee her giving up on those, knowing that, I think in her heart she knows that they're right, and it's a matter of just getting the right people to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree. I just don't know the question. I'd like to understand better the question that goes forward under the habeas claim, to see whether or not it has a chance. Brendan's obviously had a chance, right? It was granted by the first judge, and then reaffirmed by the next three until it was put back down by the en banc. And that question was an odd question, right? It was, is the confession admissible, right? It was not really guilt or innocence. It was like, is the confession admissible? Who knows what the nature of the question is? I mean, I would think you can directly challenge the ruling on those things related to the Constitution, Brady, Denny, etc. But I just don't know.
But if you look at today's climate, with many cases involving constitutional rights, that stuff, it's all under scrutiny right now in the courts. Yep. From First Amendment to Second Amendment, and it's going to be. I mean, you get rid of, not if they get rid of, but I mean, if you start to see those constitutional rights being challenged in court so much, it becomes, we almost as people in the US start to become kind of immune to listening to what's going on. Right. And it gives them more power to basically take away those constitutional rights, and we're seeing more of it.
You're 100% right. I mean, that's really the argument. I mean, another way to frame the argument that I made is that if you're a citizen of Wisconsin, your rights are now eroded. Your constitutional rights are eroded because the next thing that they decide to bury might not be a work product. They say, well, in the State versus Avery, it wasn't necessary to put this forward, even though it's potentially exculpatory. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court affirmed it, that it wasn't. And so that is an erosion of your rights. So yeah, we have to stick up for them. If you don't, they become
Well,
they
I got
become
a
more
question
powerful.
for you both.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Say this happened in the area we have technology today, same back then. Do you think it would have played out differently as far as media?
The media, I think the media would have been probably worse, because the media comes out right away and plays the victim card themselves. You know, they try to take on the role of sympathy and empathy for the victims, even before not knowing the full situation. And they did that in the media in this case originally, you know, and not to change away from this, but if I watched the Rittenhouse trial quite a lot, and the judge was correct in what he had been stating in there is don't call them victims yet. You know, you can't call them victims until it's proven that he committed a crime. That was actually pretty constitutionally, that judge was spot on, and I know people will dispute that, but he was under attack, so he didn't want the other people that Kyle had defended himself against called victims at that point. If Kyle had been convicted, yes, then you can say those people were victims. Then, you know, uh, it's kind of a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, and I think the point is that you're making. I think one of the analogies that you're making there is that the lead up to the trial, which had about the same amount of time, right? It was about a year. It was over
Exactly.
a year, right? You know, in both cases, I think Stephen and Kyle Rittenhouse were completely demonized by the media, with the help of a very biased district attorneys in the same state. So.
Absolutely. I mean, well, and for one, I'll say this: I didn't see this in the media, which I thought was it was pretty good. But with as much as we saw Ken Kratz in the media, and in this case, you didn't see the prosecutor in the media so much before the case was in, and while it was ongoing, which was a good thing. I mean, that's a tactic that should have never been allowed for Kratz even back then. He used the media to gain the citizens wanting to believe for sure that Stephen and Brendan were the ones that did this. Yeah, the media is a huge factor in it to me. It not really as far as the jury judgment in that, but as far as putting all those implications in people's minds throughout Wisconsin.
Yeah. So I wonder, Millbilly, if your question wasn't along the lines of, not just media technology, but technology, right? If we had the ability to analyze item FL to see that there was no bone fragments on it, what might that have changed things?
That exactly. I'm not even talking about the media aspect, just technology in general.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from the cellular perspective, you have better information on today's 4G than you had on the 2G of that Teresa's phone was, right? Two more cellular generations. You'd be able to do a lot better forensic analysis, and we would have we would have her text messages now. And we would also have a record of when the last text actually was picked up by her phone. So we'd actually have a very good idea of when her phone actually went off the grid, based upon the time of arrival that we'd see from the text messages, which would have got stored because they didn't get delivered because her phone went off at some time. So yeah, I think we would have a lot more and a lot better and more accurate information about her location at the time of that CFNA call, for one thing. And who knows what other information that we could have got from.
I'm sure the flyover video would have been better.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, do you think we would have had better pictures? Would they be on people's cell phones with better clarity? You know, all that does come into play. I mean, these guys could barely, back at that time, operate a digital camera. You know, they struggled with a lot of technology. Heck, they struggled with finding a key after 7 days. So I don't know if the technology today would make it worse or better.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's definitely harder to hide things in this higher tech society that we live in. So um, I tend to agree that it would favor Stephen if it happened today. It would favor the innocent.
But
The more scrutiny.
constitutionally, does that not scare you a little bit as well? That our information is a little bit more easy for people to get and use against you?
Oh yeah, yeah, it definitely does, and
It goes both
um,
ways.
it
Yeah,
goes both ways. And I think part of the issue here, if you want to talk about your freedoms getting eroded, is that the type of information that I'm talking about is available and should only be accessible via legal subpoena. And I think if once you step over the line into the world of politics and start putting on the news, then what you're finding is the phone company surrendering information willingly without even having to be asked for a subpoena about about subscribers who are only accused of doing certain things, and that's just flat out wrong. You should
it,
they should have to provide a subpoena and a reason, right?
it,
But
it is wrong. The only thing that I sit and think about is when we go sign a contract with a cellular company, all the fine print, do they have the right somewhere in there to just, yeah, we had the cops call us here, yeah, you can have this info. They sell our information anyways, like our, not that information, but I mean, there might be an open loophole, I think, there for them to get it in a non-legal channel.
yeah, I think there's a big disparity between what, say, Verizon and AT&T do and are allowed to do, and what Google does, right? You
Yeah,
load a Google app onto your phone, and you use that, and if you look, excuse me, at some of the permissions that you give these apps when you download them, like you give, why should you be giving Angry Birds access to your text messages? You got to ask
yep,
yourself why are you doing that? And that mean if they're asking for permission to access those, they are accessing them and doing something with them.
yeah,
So
yes,
you should be.
absolutely.
And so I think there's a huge difference between what the cellular provider itself can do with regarding your call records and what Google can do regarding your search history, which is essentially the same information, because you can't get towers as easy as you can from the cellular, but you can get how often is it that you're talking about something, and then the next time you open up an app, you see an ad for the thing that you were just talking about, right? That happens all the time because Google is listening. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, if you ask, and that's, I know my phone does it, but people say, get an Alexa. Nope.
Nope.
I just got a new truck and it asked me to set up Alexa, and I'm like, yeah, no, not happening. I call her Alexa a pretty bad word.
One that the Australian women use frequently.
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. And I'm not talking pineapple either. Yeah, I agree. There's again, that's where I say like there's a double-edged sword with the technology. I do think, just as yeah, T1 just said too, that obviously technology would have helped him, but the bottom line is the jury was pressured into convicting him, and I agree with that. You know, we would hope um, that the technology in future cases is going to be beneficial in that way. A matter of fact, I was on Rhonda, watching Rhonda's live as far as Daniel Holtzclaw, and just before that, I had watched a video that happened in Reno, California, or Reno, Nevada, where a guy that was traveling through over to California had his all of his money seized, and they had no proof or no reason to pull him over. They took like 87 grand that he had. He's a former vet. The cops were former vets. But what they did in this video is they found a way to skirt, because in Nevada there's a anti-seizure laws. So what they did is they called in a DA, which is a DEA agent, which is federal, and they seized the money that way. It's about a 20-minute video on YouTube, and I was blown away just by the fact that our law enforcement, for one, yeah, I do think law enforcement is good in a lot of ways, but there are some agencies and some of the policies that are meant to skirt or used to skirt around local and state laws, um, that aren't beneficial to the people of the United States. When they can come and take your money, and if you watch that video, they showed that it happened to like 13 people, where they seized their money with no proof that there was any crime, and a lot of them haven't gotten it back.
Wow.
So they called it an adoption, where the local highway patrol seized the money, but they turned it over to the DEA, even though there was no signs of any drugs or weapons or anything. They turned it over to them, and that was called an adoption, which skirts around the anti-seizure laws. But the federal government can seize property, money, without any real cause. So it was a good video to watch. Very, very interesting.
You're gonna have to shoot me the link because I would like to watch that video.
Yeah, I'll put it in Millbilly's channel after we're done.
Sounds good. So I guess we got 2 votes here, Millbilly, for going down the federal route, because we both think that at least Jamie and I think that the constitutional issues are too important to ignore. With the clock ticking, what's your vote for?
I really don't know.
Didn't Zellner say something in MAM 2 about not wanting to being at the mercy of the habeas is no place that you want to be? She was referring to Brendan at the time, but didn't she make some comment like that in MAM 2? I'm having trouble remembering it.
That's like basically the last resort.
Yeah.
I mean, what does Brendan have? Unless some new evidence comes forward.
Well, his conviction is not based on any evidence, right? So, there's not a single piece of forensic evidence against Brendan. So
that's the whole issue.
It's all about his confession. So, you're right. Some new evidence, some new exculpatory evidence has to come up, or maybe Sawinski. I don't know, but I think Brendan he's fucked. The poor kid. Unbelievable.
I don't even know if I've been curious about this for a long time. If somebody on their deathbed ever came forward and said, "Hey, I did this," would that even help them at all? that type of stuff does happen.
Yeah.
Now, how could they
Well,
verify
look
it?
at the Gregory Allen. He confessed to the Penny Bernstein attack, and they ignored it.
Yep.
I remember Tracy Strunzi saying that in Wisconsin, that there's that actual innocence is not a reason that you can get released from prison, right? That's among all the reasons you can get released, actual innocence is not one of them. One of the things that you can cite.
Does that
Those,
not tell you that there is a problem with our judicial system when that can't get you out? It
especially
also
in
tells,
Wisconsin.
yeah, and it also tells you that there's either something either monetarily or politically. Why would there be any reason why a court, if your actual innocence has been proved, why would you not be able to walk out that day? To me, that's just wrong. In one of the I'm not going to say we're the greatest country in the world. I know there's debates about that as well, but when our freedom and our laws are supposed to be that good, and the Constitution is supposed to be written that well, there's no reason why if somebody brought something up in court that proved absolutely you were not guilty, that you should not be walking out that day. You should not have to walk back in the doors of a prison for another day even to get processed. They should be able to process you without bringing you back in there ever again. I mean, that's traumatic to a person.
Yeah, yeah, because she brought that up. She would bring that up in the context of the RAV, one of our favorite subjects on this channel, and said even if somebody produced the RAV, which would be outside of police custody, if there was really say two RAVs, and produced the original RAV and brought it and said, hey, here it is. It wouldn't do any good because actual innocence is not a good enough reason to get out. So that's just nuts. I don't get it. The lawyers have managed to talk us into a spaghetti of illogic. So.
Yep. And I've said this before, and I don't know if Travis is ever listening. Him and I had talked about this a long time ago, where I had mentioned that trials are basically a theatrical experience for the DA. I mean, there's a lot of acting going on, you know.
Right.
Why is this type of stuff allowed in court? I know originally when you look back in the olden days of court, and even if you go over to like the UK, the way they dressed up for court and all this stuff, it was basically a big play to me. You know, that's the way I look at it. It's just not.
To give it the air of some officiality, the judge's robes and everything else. It's
But
a big
yeah,
charade. Yeah.
but yet if you can prove actual innocence, it doesn't matter because it's a play.
Right.
You know, everybody's acting, and I say that also with this. You listen to Ken Kratz in court, and it seems like we've talked about this in the past. The way Ken uses his voice, um, in those soft tones, and they try to get the sympathy vote just by using a different tone, like they're reading a children's book. It's it's disturbing, really. I mean,
Yeah. Yes, it is.
It's basically who can put on a better show to the jury.
Yeah.
exactly. It's a really really bad version of watching Rent.
But the thing that bothers me the most is the judge is supposed to be unbiased, but he was like questioning things he shouldn't be questioned either, without even the defense or the prosecution even bringing it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the voicemail, right? Why is it relevant, right? He didn't see the relevance of the deleted voicemails. Judge Willis, remember that? Oh, I don't see why
yeah,
that's relevant. What? It's 100% relevant if the ex-boyfriend has access to the voicemails, and he could potentially delete the one that says I'm going to kill you, you fucking bitch, right? And Willis says, "Oh, I don't see the relevance."
Yeah, there's a few comments in here. Anthony Hill said Bobby pushing the RAV was new evidence. You need to get away from the corruption in the court. Um, and then, yeah, and everybody kind of Nan's life, bad acting in court, Dragonfly like a big chessboard with dressed up pawns. Yeah.
Right,
The
right.
problem is the
Brilliant,
same
brilliant.
people stay in power, or the
Yep.
same people like them continue their legacy. I mean, look at Pagel, who's our attorney general now, her son.
Josh Cole. And guess who won like judge of the year or something like that, right?
Of course, because his drunk buddies were voting for him.
Her.
Suckowitz.
Or her, yeah.
Yeah, Judge Angie. I forget what that was. See you next Tuesday of the year. So, oops. Yeah. So, you're right. And it's actually interesting to think. You know, if there were term limits, that would be because is there any doubt in anybody's mind that this originated all from Stephen running his cousin off the road, right? And her husband happened to be a sheriff's deputy, and that's why they got the hair across their ass in the first place, right? You can't do that you're not going to be able to do that to a sheriff's deputy. We're going to fix that, and we're going to send you away. And that
Well,
was
the fact
that
that
was in
they
1984.
lumped both cases together.
Yeah.
They have no bearing at all with each other whatsoever.
Right, and who could have pulled that off besides Kasurek, right? I mean, and Kasurek had been
Vogel.
sheriff for umpteen years, and was kind of like a godfather kind of figure, and knew everybody, and was in a very powerful position, and powerful enough to tell the DA Vogel, "Don't fuck this up," right? As we know from the transcripts of the of the lawsuit. So term limits might have been something that would have been favorable to Stephen. And when these guys stay in power too long, just like you just said, Jamie, that's when the corruption brews. And and I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on, it happens on both sides.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
When
The whole government doesn't matter when it's at a city, state. They're all, and you gotta think about this. If you look at some of the rules that they have for themselves, all the pensions that they're allowed to have, the medical. Why don't the peasants, of the cities in the U.S. get the same benefits? Well, my personal opinion is that's one of the reasons why they don't want those term limits, because the retirement plans that those people have, if you do a term limit, well, then most of them wouldn't be able to work there long enough to put away enough money to retire like the rest of us.
Yeah, term limits passed in Massachusetts a long time ago. And what happened? That's back when if you remember a guy named Ted Kennedy, right, who was the brother of President John Kennedy, was in the Senate from the time his brother left in 1960 all the way until until he died in the 2000s. When Massachusetts passed term limits, the Kennedy came forward and said, well, the Senate is a federal job, not a state job, so the term limit law in Massachusetts doesn't apply to federal offices, only to state offices.
When it comes to the government, there's always, just like you said there's always a back door or a scapegoat, some way that they benefit themselves.
Did you know that in the Congress, the United States, they have a special slush fund set aside for if any of them gets into trouble specifically with something sexually related, that they have a special slush fund set aside so they can use that money, any one of them, for attorney's fees?
I did know that. and honestly, I think I learned that from you a long time ago in another video we did.
Whoops. I'm getting old and repeating myself.
Well, no, but that's good information, because obviously, I'd forgotten about it. We don't really think about that type of stuff, and that's exactly what they want, is they want people to forget about those little perks that they get.
Yeah. Oh yeah, perks. That's one name for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Corrupts, like corrupt the pills or something. We had to have a like a little pithy little name for it to tell it what it really is.
Well, and then when you had mentioned Kennedy, what was the movie done about the? Is that the Kennedy that the girl in the that died in the river?
Oh yeah,
You
Mary
know?
Jo Kopechne. Yep,
Yeah,
her. Yep. Yeah,
yeah. I
she
watched
she
that movie as well.
Chappaquiddick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very interesting how nothing happened to him for that.
Oh yeah, he was shit faced. He came back to the Kennedy compound shit faced, and
Yep.
nothing happened.
Had a bunch of cronies that could hide stuff for him.
Yeah, that situation was crazy.
Yep. Yeah. If you got the right last name or have to hold the right political office, you can get away with whatever you want. But if your last name's Avery, forget it.
Well, yeah, because you're just a junkyard owner, you know,
Yep.
a local businessman. You know, something else that I looked at, and when you look at since we're kind of on the government thing and the business thing, there's a lot of products that come out of Manitowoc, but they're, if I remember right, why would a, a town like Manitowoc ever want to let some of their largest businesses leave and go somewhere else? Like they have Manitou
Most of them all went to
crane.
Mexico.
Okay.
Hmm.
And that had to be pretty devastating to those communities, I'm assuming. There's a lot of industry right there in Manitowoc itself.
That's where they
But
build
to
a
me
lot
that,
of the Navy vessels there.
yeah, to me that you look at that and it's like, again, that falls into the city government. How could they not help them keep that there for their people? You know, tax rebates, whatever they could do to keep that kind of a business there. I know that's kind of off topic, but it makes me think. You know, when you tie all the government stuff in and who's tied into those and who had investments in those types of companies. Um, yeah, just crazy.
So
Well,
what was the opinion of the chat as to what Zelda ought to do? Did they put forward an opinion?
mm,
Um,
just not really here and there. A few things. I mean, let me scroll through it.
yeah, I'm looking here real quick as well.
Yeah, you named a few people out there who are pretty smart, so I was interested in what they had to say. I can't put the chat up on my phone. I won't be able to read it anyway.
Yeah, there's a few comments. I don't know, maybe some of them have left. But Sandy Zappa, you know, had mentioned, you know, admitting accessing her voicemail. Uh, well, I guess that wasn't as far as the um, Kathleen's.
Nope, just random
Yep.
comments.
But yes, we got quite a few of the normal ones that have been in here for quite a while. The few new names too that I've seen a couple, and even some that were around a while ago, like Addiction Mouse. Hadn't seen them in a long time, but is
Wow.
back in the community, you know, and chatting.
I want to thank
So,
both of y'all for joining me, and maybe we'll
no
do this
problem.
again soon.
Yeah, has
Yeah.
has KZ indicated when we might hear when she's going to make a decision on what her next move will be? I mean, what is her decision process, her decision tree?
I'm assuming it'll happen after the holidays.
Yeah.
It's my guess. But
Yeah, I could see that getting pushed back because, you know, and we've seen this in the past. Usually, any kind of decisions were always got so and so's off, for vacation for the whole month of December.
Yeah.
Those government vacation policies.
Well, she got I mean, the thing. It's just the time is the real thing here, right? And how much longer does how much quality of life is Steven going to have left? I mean, there's a difference between being free and having quality of life, right? Steven's not getting any younger, and if she feels that his best route to a new trial is by an eyewitness, that's one thing. Um, I would like to understand what her decision tree is, or whether she's already made the decision. Why can't she tell us? What it's going to be. To me, if she hasn't told us, she probably hasn't decided yet. So I
Yeah.
just wonder what her decision variables are.
Well, then if you look at too, if she even if she was able to get Steven out, how long out is that, and what's his quality of life then? He's literally gone over 90%. I'd say probably 80% of his life not having a job or any money coming in. Yeah, how long if he was to get out? Now, how long would a court case go if he did to try to sue him? And how long would they drag that out and try and hide money so that he couldn't get it again?
Yeah.
Well,
If I were him, I'd just want out.
we can continue
Oh,
this conversation.
absolutely. But when you get out, I mean, when he got out before, look at where he ended up at. That trailer that was pretty well decrepit. I mean, it was livable, but not by well. That even wasn't even the first place. He had that
It's
little
the ice
ice
shanty.
house.
The ice shanty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Lived in ice shanty
Because he couldn't.
first.
Yeah, that's awful, right? Because he couldn't. Because he was confined. He couldn't sleep in a big room. Big, right?
Yeah.
As if that trailer was big, right?
Yeah.
Rolly's trailer.
That little ice house probably was kind of like a little bit of a comfort blanket.
Yeah. Crazy.
All
Well,
right, well, thank you again, guys, for coming on, and maybe we'll do this again next week.
Hey, good to see both of you, man.
yeah,
Sure.
good to see you guys too. Yep.
Take
Talk to
care.
you guys later.
Take care.